mean, certainly there's a huge amount of speculation as to how the series might end. I mean, do you trawl these websites just keeping an eye on whether or not that your best kept secrets have made their way into the public domain? I mean, would you change your plot lines if you discovered them someone somewhere had guessed as to your conclusion?
You know, I would not. I did look at some of the websites and read the discussions going on and the people talking about theories and putting forward guesses as to where books was going and what some of the secrets that I was hinting at were. And many of the theories were completely off base and wrong, but some people got it right. And that's when I really wrestled with the issue in like 1999 and 2000, 2001. Okay, these people have figured out something. Should I now change it? And I decided that way lay disaster. You know, I'd laid in clues and things that pointed to a particular thing. And if I now changed it because one person in 1,000 had figured it out, the new solution would not be satisfactory because the clues point in another way. It would be a cheat in a sense.
So, Season 8 of Game of Thrones is finally over, and with it, the entire series of Game of Thrones. So, what did I think of it? That requires a few layers. Number one, let me just get it out of the way. The episode was beautiful. It was beautifully shot, it was beautifully edited, the music was wonderful, the effects were wonderful, the acting was on point. And to be honest, it was a really good way to end this series. It was bittersweet, as we expected, but there were serious problems, and it's not specifically with this episode. To be completely honest, the problem is with the last 3 seasons, and this season in particular, Season 8. I actually, now that I've watched it, I think this might be about the ending that George Martin goes for with the A Song of Ice and Fire series. I think it's possible that, Daenerys will go mad. Actually, I think that's likely. It's possible Bran will become the king. It's possible the North will remain independent. It's possible Arya will sail west. It's possible Jon will go north past the wall. It's all possible. I mean, I could see it happening. It's just that the way they've done it might be the worst way conceivable. It's almost like they just kind of held their breaths until they got to this episode, and the last 2 seasons have been for nothing, right? It's almost like, and this actually might be the truth, is that they knew how they wanted to end it, and so they just got everyone as quickly as possible. All the characters, they just pushed them into where they were supposed to be, so the story could end like this, rather than having the story end naturally, in a natural way. And I'm 100% sure, whether or not the novels end this way or not, that the ending we get from the novels will feel earned and will feel like we got there properly. Let's take a step back. I have no doubt that people will see this episode positively, right? I have no doubt about that, because it is a strong episode. But no matter how strong this episode is, it can't undo the last episode. And also, more than anything, and more important, it ruins every other episode with Daenerys Targaryen in it. Not this one, but the episode preceding this. So basically, this season ruins it. So, what was the point of everything? Let me come back to Daenerys. Let me first start off, because this is actually tangentially related. All the setup that we've had in prior seasons, all the prophecies and possibilities, even Bran himself, all meant nothing. Winter coming didn't matter. Apparently, Targaryen madness is just something people have intrinsically. When you get down to it, what is the series really about? I guess my biggest problem with this season is that the changes that have happened don't feel earned. Bran becoming king doesn't feel earned. It feels random, like it happened out of nowhere, because it did happen out of nowhere. Maybe George told them, hey, in the end, Bran Stark becomes king, and they said okay, and that's what happened, but it doesn't make sense with the story they're telling. Like, if this is how the books end, which I don't, like I said, it could happen, then they should have changed the ending, because they didn't have enough time, or they didn't have the want to earn this ending. So Bran Stark becoming king makes no sense. Jon going back to the Wall also makes no sense to the Night Watch, because the Night Watch don't exist, and they kind of hand wave it away and say, oh, there'll always be a place for bastards and broken things. No, there's no reason to have a Night's Watch, there's no reason to have a Wall. The White Walkers are defeated, the undead don't exist anymore. Exactly what is the Night's Watch doing? Nothing. So like I said, they haven't earned it, they haven't explained it. They wasted all their time on close-ups of the actors' faces. Sansa becoming queen doesn't feel earned. What has Sansa done? Why does Sansa get to be queen? She's done nothing. And some people I remember saying, oh, well, she helped win the Battle of the Bastards. Not really. I mean, she did ask Littlefinger for an army, but Littlefinger already offered her that army. So what the hell has she been doing? In fact, Daenerys probably wouldn't even have gone crazy if she hadn't opened her big mouth and told everyone Jon's lineage. So it kind of just falls flat for me. It doesn't feel earned. Arya sailing west, I think it feels more earned than the other ones. But even that seems a little dubious, because she's never really expressed any interest in doing that, has she? Of sailing? Not that I know of. All her skills are to be an assassin. And speaking of that, the faceless training she got doesn't mean anything. It never really comes up. Her combat training sorta comes up when she kills the Night King. But I mean, you could have done that without, the combat training. Dropping a knife from one hand into another could be done without, seasons of setup. But her faceless man magic doesn't really come into play other than her killing the Frey house. House Frey. So what exactly was the point of all that? What was the point of the setup with Samwell Tarly and the Warhorn? What was the setup with Littlefinger and all his plots and schemes? What was the setup with Varys and the voice he heard in the flames? What was the setup with the Lord of Light? They even kind of talk about that in the last season and talk about what the Lord of Light wants. So are they saying there is a Lord of Light? What does it all mean? Are we ever going to find out? I guess when the books are released. It's just so sloppy and rushed. It's actually shocking. It really is to me. Like I said, the episode is good. The last episode of Game of Thrones is a good episode. It is a strong episode with very good writing, surprisingly. But everything that has led up to it has been just terrible. Just terrible. And it did look like the Game of Thrones leaks were right. People were... There were leaks circulating on the internet, and they were all correct, which I thought they might not be. I thought maybe, maybe they won't be. But they ended up being right. But I'm of two minds about the whole thing as an ending. On one hand, it's nice that it just kind of stops. The show just kind of stops. It doesn't really end. It just stops, right? We can still, imagine that there are adventures, beyond what we see. Jon Snow continues to have adventures with Tormund and Ghost. Arya continues to have adventures across the sea. The Game of Thrones continues in the North and in King's Landing. In that respect, I actually thought it was kind of beautiful. So that's why I'm saying that I like the ending. I just don't think that it was earned or deserved. That's what I have to say. Good ending, not earned, not deserved. They kind of fumbled into it at the last minute. It's nice that they were able to save it, and I think this does sort of save the series in some ways, but it does not save Season 8. Season 8 is still by far the worst season that they've ever come out with, and that I put that squarely on the showrunners, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, I believe his name is. I put it squarely on them. They had everything they needed, and I don't want to hear people talking about, well, the books aren't done. It does not matter. There are plenty of times when they're using book material where they decide to change it or alter it in some way that made it worse. I mean, just off the top of my head, I could think of Stannis, or Dorne, or Jon Snow's death, or Sansa being raped for no real reason. These things were their choice. George Martin didn't make this choice, and they could have done it a different way. This is the way they decided to do it. So don't put this off on Martin. Good or bad, Game of Thrones, the TV show, should be remembered separately from the books. And to be honest, throughout all of this, and maybe this is some small kernel of hope, I'm actually really excited to finish Song of Ice and Fire books. I don't know if that's because Game of Thrones has been really bad or really good, or maybe because it was really good and I want it to continue being good, I want to see the quote-unquote real ending. So, who knows? Maybe it won't even happen in my lifetime. It could be, 20 years before we get A Dream of Spring. I guess we'll see. And finally, and possibly most importantly, I wanted to talk about one last thing, and that is the absolute character assassination of Daenerys Targaryen. Now, I've never actually been a huge Dany fan. I think her story is interesting. I actually thought it was the most interesting in like season 1 and season 2. But, I have no particular attachment to her. But even I have a lot more respect for her than I think the writers did. I think they so wanted Daenerys' turn to be shocking to us that they decided to forego the character development. And for the record, I'm not talking about foreshadowing. I understand that you could say there was foreshadowing of her turning mad. You could say there was foreshadowing of Jon turning mad. You could probably do that to just about anybody. Regardless of what was foreshadowed, Daenerys killing women and children is so antithetical to her character and to the character that's been displayed to us over the past many years that no matter what the show presents to me, I still can't believe that the character of Dany would do what she did. Not because no one could write it so Dany would do that, but because the showrunners specifically have not established that. They did not do a good job, no matter what they say. They did not do a good job of presenting her madness in a believable way. It still seems to be an ass-pull to me. It was something they wanted to do, but they didn't want to give too much information to the audience because they wanted to shock us. Well, I have something to say. A character acting out of character is not shocking. It's not. It's just frustrating. The Red Wedding was shocking because everyone was in character. The Purple Wedding was shocking because everyone was in character. Ned Stark being beheaded was shocking because everyone was in character. Tywin Lannister's death was shocking because everyone was in character. Daenerys burning women and children is not in character, and therefore it is not shocking. It pulls you out of the story, and it makes you remember, oh, I'm watching a TV show. And if done properly, Daenerys' turn could be a somber warning to people about the maddening effects of power and how ambitious intentions can turn a good person bad. But as it stands, that is not what we got. What we got is a character assassination of one of the most beloved heroes in fiction. And her turn doesn't just pollute this season, but it actually retroactively makes all of her seasons preceding this worse. It redefines every season she's in, because every time you're watching her, you know that soon she's going to be killing kids, and she is not going to give a damn. I guess in the end, the Mad King got what he wanted, didn't he? Alright, so that's all I have to say for now. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to me and liking the video. I also have other social media pages. The links are in the description. I'm particularly active on Facebook, so consider following me there too. Take care.